Most women will never say this out loud, but they crave a man they cannot fully grasp, a man who remains untamed by their charm, unfazed by their storms, and unshaken by their silence. Imagine this. You're everything she's ever wanted on paper. You say the right things. You text back in perfect timing. You're attentive, polite, available. But something in her pulls away. She starts to question, doubt, drift. You wonder what went wrong. And yet the answer is deeper than words, deeper than behavior. It lies within the realm of unconscious psychology, the symbolic dance between anima and animus, between the soul of the feminine and the unyielding presence of the masculine. Carl Jung understood this unspoken war well. He knew that beneath the surface of desire lies a darker terrain, one where women are not always drawn to what is safe, but to what is sovereign, to the man who does not bend when she pushes, to the one who can hold her chaos without needing to tame it, to the man whose masculinity is not performed, but lived silently, relentlessly, fully. She may say she wants kindness, empathy, softness, and often she does. But deeper still, the shadow craves polarity. She desires the man who does not tremble in the face of her emotional storms, the man who does not try to fix her, explain himself, or become what she demands. This is not about cruelty. This is not about dominance in the crude sense. This is about the magnetic force of a man who is rooted, unmoved, self-contained. When a woman cannot control a man, not through guilt, nor silence, nor shame, something primal within her awakens. The part of her that has tasted manipulation, emotional control, and reactive validation, and found them all boring. She becomes obsessed with the mystery, with the stillness, with the power of a man who no longer seeks approval, but rather walks his own path, even if it means walking alone. This man, the one she cannot predict, cannot bend, cannot possess, forces her to confront her own shadow. Her projections fall short. Her manipulation loops crash. Her conditioned games no longer land. And in that chaos, something unusual happens. She begins to feel, to burn, to question. He, meanwhile, remains outside the dance. Not indifferent, but sovereign. He is not aloof out of fear. He is distant out of clarity. He knows that the man who trades integrity for affection becomes hollow. That love earned through self-abandonment is a slow spiritual death. And so he waits, watches, chooses. This man is not hard to find, because he is hidden. He's not loud, because true power whispers. He doesn't compete, because his presence alone eliminates the need. He lives by ancient codes, not written in books, but carved into the marrow of every Stoic, every king, every man who has tasted betrayal, swallowed rejection, and emerged cleaner, colder, and whole. Most women have met this man only once or twice in their lives, if ever. He leaves an imprint, not because he tried to be remembered, but because he refused to be forgotten. He gave her nothing to grasp, no false comfort, no reactive behavior, no war of egos. And that silence, that restraint, that's what haunts her. It is not that she fell in love with him. It is that he forced her to meet herself, her unhealed parts, her strategies, her control mechanisms. And when they failed to move him, she was left naked, emotionally, spiritually. That's the seduction. That's the power. Not what he gave her, but what he reflected back. You, the man listening to this, have likely felt the opposite of this truth your entire life. You've been told to be nice, agreeable, accommodating. You've been taught to earn love through obedience, to keep the peace, to soften your edge. And what has that earned you? Validation, maybe, but attraction? No. Respect? Fleeting. Power? Never. The woman craves depth, but not just any depth. She seeks the depth of a man who has stared into his own abyss and did not flinch. A man who did his shadow work, who faced the pain of his past, who no longer leaks need from the wounds of rejection, who doesn't chase pleasure to escape loneliness, but who becomes the flame that draws others in. When she meets that man, the one who knows who he is, not because the world told him, but because suffering carved him into someone real, she doesn't know what to do. Her usual patterns fail. Her scripts collapse. And that disruption feels like chaos, desire, fear, longing, all at once. That is the core of attraction. And yet, this man doesn't gloat, doesn't punish, doesn't play games. He simply is. Detached, not distant. Compassionate, but never compromising. Powerful, but gentle. It is this contradiction, this balance between stillness and storm, that pulls her in and terrifies her all the same. Because control is comfortable, but mystery is unforgettable. Attraction is not built in the warmth of comfort. It is forged in the tension between craving and confusion. When a man gives a woman everything she thinks she wants, her conscious mind is satisfied, but her unconscious remains untouched, unmoved. There is no mystery, no initiation into her shadow, just safety and slow emotional death. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious governs more of our behavior than we care to admit. A woman may articulate what she wants, kindness, support, stability, but the unconscious seeks something deeper, something far more dangerous. It seeks to dissolve itself in the presence of masculine clarity, in the ancient pulse of the archetypal masculine, still, strong, grounded, and completely beyond her control. This is why she returns to the man she couldn't figure out, not because he played games, but because he didn't. His silence wasn't passive aggression. It was presence. His lack of reaction wasn't withdrawal. It was self-respect. And she felt that, deeply, painfully, because it shattered the illusion of dominance she'd used on lesser men. You see, control is a form of fear. When a woman seeks to control a man emotionally, with passive silence, hot and cold behavior, or strategic affection, she is testing not just his patience, but his presence. She is unknowingly asking, "Are you real? Are you grounded? Can you hold the wildness within me without losing the spine within yourself?" And most men fail this test. They react. They chase. They explain. They apologize. They beg. They try to win back affection like a starving dog gnawing at a bone of validation. And in doing so, they give away the very thing she unconsciously needed from them most: masculine containment. This is not control over her. This is control over self. He who controls himself controls the dynamic. And this, Jung would argue, is not manipulation. It is individuation. The path of the man who has integrated his shadow, who has met his inner child, who no longer bleeds from the wounds of his past into the hands of the present woman. When a man shows restraint, he becomes dangerous, not in the way of threat or violence, but in the way of calm. Because calm is terrifying to those who thrive on chaos. And for many women who have been conditioned to survive in the emotional wilderness, a man who doesn't flinch at her fire is either a mystery or a mirror, often both. She projects onto him what she has not resolved within herself. She expects him to collapse under her mood swings, to be rattled by her coldness, to compete with her chaos. But he doesn't, because the man she cannot control is no longer fighting her. He has transcended the war. He is not distant because he is hurt. He is distant because he is whole. He is not silent because he lacks words. He is silent because words are no longer necessary. His energy says what his mouth never needs to. And this triggers something ancient in her. The feminine, at its core, desires to be led, not dominated, but inspired. Not silenced, but seen. And only the man who is not intoxicated by her beauty, nor seduced by her emotional games, can see her truly. He sees beyond the walls, beyond the tactics, into the broken places she hides. And yet, he does not flinch. He does not save. He simply stands there, like a mirror with a pulse. She may run from this man, reject him, criticize him, even try to destroy him. But it's not because she doesn't feel something. It's because she feels everything. And the ego does not like to be unmasked, especially by a man who refuses to kneel. The modern man has been trained out of this power. He has been told to appease, to emote, to bend. He has been stripped of his edges, told that his silence is toxicity and his discipline is repression. But the truth, the ancient truth, is that a man who bows to the feminine to earn her love is no man at all. He becomes a boy in love with his mother's approval. And women don't sleep with their sons. They test them, they punish them, they break them, all unconsciously, because nature does not reward weakness, no matter how well-behaved it is. The man she cannot control does not need to be mean. He does not need to raise his voice or slam a door. He simply does not move when pushed. He stands still. He waits. And when he does move, it's by choice, not reaction. This is the essence of masculine energy. Not performance, but presence. Not action, but intention. And yet, he is not emotionally dead. He feels deeply, but selectively. His vulnerability is earned, not given freely. He doesn't bleed into the arms of the wrong woman. He doesn't share his soul to be understood. He understands himself, and that is enough. She senses this. She may hate it. She may deny it. But part of her will always crave it. Because this is what the feminine truly desires. A man she can surrender to, not because he commands it, but because he embodies it. A man whose self-worth does not rise or fall on her approval. Because in the silence of that sovereignty, her chaos finally feels safe. She might say he's cold. She might call him distant, unavailable, arrogant even. But beneath the labels, what she's truly feeling is unfamiliarity. Because most of her life, men have shown up trying to please, to be chosen, to impress. They leaned in too soon, exposed too much, and drowned in her emotional waves because they never learned how to anchor their own soul. This man, the one she cannot control, does not operate in that paradigm. He doesn't pursue her validation like a child chasing his mother's love. He offers presence, not performance. He listens, but he does not apologize for existing. He may love her deeply, but his love never compromises his direction. Jung would describe this man as someone who has met the unconscious and survived. He's integrated his shadow. He's not seeking a woman to rescue him from his emptiness. He is full, and from that fullness, he chooses. He is not completing himself through her. He is expanding through her, if she is capable of joining him. But he never chases her, because what's not aligned doesn't need to be forced. And this terrifies the ego. Hers, yes, but also the part of you that was taught your power lies in being needed, in being chosen, in being soft enough to be accepted. But the ego that begs for approval is not love. It's dependency. It's fear in disguise. A man who knows his worth does not panic when she pulls away. He does not chase energy that grows colder. He does not ask, "What did I do wrong?" Because he understands that her reaction is often about her war with herself, not with him. And he is not her battleground. He is the fortress. To be this man, one must die first. Die to the illusion of conditional love. Die to the addiction to being liked. Die to the belief that emotional availability means leaking every wound into the open. He must stand in front of his own inner mother, the woman who raised or abandoned him, and grieve what was never given. He must face the mirror and ask, "Why do I beg to be seen? Why do I need her attention to feel real?" And in that grief, he must resurrect as something else, not less emotional, but emotionally sovereign. Only then can he meet a woman with truth, not trauma, and she will feel it. She'll feel that his silence isn't empty, it's measured. She'll feel that when he doesn't respond, it's not rejection, it's restraint. That when he speaks, every word is deliberate. That his distance isn't cruelty, it's containment. And that terrifies her, not because he is hurting her, but because she cannot manipulate what she does not control. This is why she tests him. This is why she pushes his boundaries, sometimes gently, sometimes violently. She's not always aware of what she's doing. Her psyche, her feminine unconscious, is searching for the edge, the boundary, the structure, the divine masculine container. She asks with her silence, "Will you come chasing me?" He answers with his stillness, "Not if it costs my self-respect." She asks with her withdrawal, "Will you shrink yourself to win me back?" He answers with his discipline, "You were never mine to lose." This triggers her feminine wound, the same way his masculine wound may have once been triggered by rejection. But here lies the difference. The sovereign man doesn't collapse into his wound. He holds it, he watches it, he breathes through it, and he chooses not to bleed it onto the woman in front of him. This is mastery, and women feel it, even if they cannot name it. She won't know how to explain why she keeps thinking about him. Why the man who did less, texted less, gave less, lives more rent-free in her mind than the one who gave her the world. But it's not what he gave that imprinted her, it's what he withheld. Not in manipulation, but in power. Because she saw in him something most men do not possess, the ability to walk away without malice, to love without attachment, to witness her emotions without drowning in them, to stay rooted while she raged, withdrew, returned, tested, collapsed. She felt held, not by arms, but by presence, by a man who had become his own authority. And that is unforgettable. There's a reason women return to these men in their thoughts years later. It's not the looks. It's not the charm. It's the way their nervous system responded to him. The way her chaos melted around his calm. The way she could not figure him out, and instead had to meet herself in his reflection. You do not need to be cruel to be powerful. You do not need to play games to be desired. You need to know, with unshakable certainty, who you are, even in the face of her chaos. Even when your heart aches. Even when you want to run back and fix it. Because if you abandon yourself for her, she will sense it. And if you stand tall in yourself, even if it breaks her illusions, she will respect it. And eventually, she may even surrender to it. There is a sacred terror within the feminine, a longing for a man who sees through her illusions, and a fear that he actually will. The ego resists it, but the soul craves it. And the man she cannot control is the one who pierces through both, not with force, but with presence, not with dominance, but with depth. He does not react. He reflects. He does not seek to overpower her storms. He lets them pass. Like a mountain watches lightning, like the moon watches tides, because he understands that every chaotic moment is a test, not of endurance, but of embodiment. And this is where many men fail. They confuse detachment with indifference and power with avoidance. But the truth is, a man who withdraws to protect his ego is not sovereign. He's simply afraid. Real masculine presence is not about disappearing. It's about remaining emotionally composed while staying in the room. It's about staying in your center even when the air is thick with fire. To do this, a man must know who he is before he meets her. He must meet his own pain before he tries to love another. He must build a foundation beneath his soul that no feminine storm can erode. Because only then can he offer her the one thing her nervous system truly seeks: containment. She wants to feel your edges, not your walls. She wants to feel your truth, not your tactics. She wants to feel your strength, not your performance. Because when a man truly sees her, he doesn't get lost in her beauty or broken by her moods. He witnesses both and remains unmoved in his core. Not cold, but centered. Not passive, but sovereign. This is the kind of man she obsesses over. Not because he plays hard to get, but because he is hard to reach, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. He does not give himself away easily. He does not overshare in hopes of being understood. He is selective, and that scarcity builds value. Most men try to earn her by volume. By doing more, texting more, giving more. They hand over their time, their energy, their masculine essence in exchange for closeness. But a man who truly understands attraction knows. Desire is born in space. Intensity lives in the unknown. The woman may not consciously know this. She may ask for more attention, more access, more softness, but if he gives her all of it, too soon, too freely, she will recoil. Because the feminine does not want full control. She wants to feel safe in a man's refusal to be controlled. That is what turns her on. That is what opens her. That is what makes her lean in. It's not cruelty. It's mystery. It's not withholding. It's discernment. And when she meets that rare man, the one who doesn't flinch when she is emotional, who doesn't chase when she pulls away, who doesn't collapse when she withholds affection, she is forced into a moment of reckoning. She has met her edge, and that edge is everything. Jung spoke of the union of opposites, the sacred merging of the masculine and feminine within. The man who embodies this archetype is not one-dimensional. He holds contradiction in one hand and clarity in the other. He can be soft, but never weak. He can be open, but never desperate. He can be intimate, but never exposed. He is not for everyone. In fact, most women cannot hold him, because to be in the presence of this kind of man requires her to rise, to meet herself, to confront her shadow. And that's terrifying, not because of what he demands, but because of what he reflects. He does not ask her to change. He simply does not lower his standards. He does not force her to be more. He simply does not accept less. And in doing so, he becomes the gatekeeper of his own energy, the guardian of his own peace. And that self-possession is what she both loves and fears, because it means he can walk away. It means he can desire her, but not need her. It means that his world remains intact, whether she joins him in it or not. That's the secret. That's the power. That's the paradox that drives her wild. He does not try to make her stay, and so she finds herself unable to leave. It is a cruel irony of the psyche. The man who holds on too tightly loses her. The one who clings, who explains, who opens his chest hoping to be accepted, suffocates the very desire he's trying to awaken. But the man who releases, not out of indifference, but out of reverence for himself, becomes unforgettable. He is not easily replaced because he is not easily reached. He knows that his time, his attention, his emotional depth are not mass-produced. They are sacred currencies. And only the woman who meets him with the same energy earns access to his world. This isn't arrogance. It's awareness. She has likely never been with a man who sees his attention as a gift, not a default. Who knows that the rarest energy in the world is not charm, or looks, or wealth, but a man in full command of his soul. A man who knows his worth so thoroughly, he no longer needs to explain it. His presence speaks louder than his words ever could. She senses this, even if she doesn't understand it. Her body reacts. Her mind races. Her ego wants to label him. He's narcissistic. He's too guarded. He doesn't care. But deep down, something else whispers, he's just not afraid of me. And that terrifies her more than anything. Because for most of her life, she's relied on emotional leverage. Her beauty, her withdrawal, her silence, her rage. These have been her tools, her ways of feeling safe in a world that too often tried to overpower her. She's learned to control men, not because she's evil, but because she's been conditioned to believe that control equals protection. But when she meets a man who doesn't bend to her moods, doesn't chase her silence, doesn't he fill the space with apologies or over-explanation, she is forced to confront the terrifying truth. She has no power over him. And that's when something primal awakens. Attraction is not about comfort. It's about polarity. Masculine and feminine energies are not equal. They are complementary. She cannot surrender to what she can dominate. She cannot soften into what collapses under her weight. She only opens to the man who can hold her without needing to possess her. The man who does not give his heart cheaply. The man who is warm, but rare. Present, but not desperate. Available, but never predictable. This man, the man she cannot control, becomes an archetype in her psyche. The one who stayed in his power. The one who didn't fight for her, but made her want to fight for him. The one who could have had her, but didn't need to prove anything. Because he already knew the truth, she was never the prize. He was. Jung understood that we do not fall in love with others. We fall in love with the reflection they awaken in ourselves. A woman who meets a man like this is not just attracted to him. She's obsessed with the version of herself she sees in his presence. The woman who is calmer, softer, more feminine, more grounded, and yet also more afraid, because that version requires vulnerability, and only the strong can be vulnerable. This is why the man who cannot be controlled is so rare. He has done the inner work most men avoid. He has chosen pain over numbness, solitude over fake affection. He has built a foundation of self-worth so stable that no woman, no matter how beautiful or intoxicating, can shake it. He doesn't need her. He wants her. And in that difference lies the fire. To need is to attach. To want is to choose. She feels that difference in the way he touches her, with reverence, not hunger. In the way he looks at her, with presence, not possession. In the way he leaves, with peace, not punishment. He is not a storm, but the eye of it. And her chaos finally has somewhere to rest. But she must choose to rest there. He will not force her. He will not beg. He will not lower his standard in the hope that she rises to it. His door is open, but only to those who walk through it by choice. And if she does not, he remains whole. That is what separates this man from the rest. His wholeness is not dependent on her return. His worth does not tremble in her absence. His power does not rise and fall with her moods. He is no longer a man seeking love. He is a man who is loved, disciplined, rooted, restrained. And that is the kind of man she can never forget. And eventually, she learns, not in the way she thought she would, not through romance, not through rescue, but through reflection, through absence, through the silent ache that only the memory of an unshakable man can carve into the heart. She won't find him scrolling through her messages. He's not there. She won't find him asking, "What did I do wrong?" Because he didn't. What she'll remember is the stillness, the way he looked at her without needing her, the way he left without slamming the door, the way his presence made her feel seen, even when he said nothing. Because the man she couldn't control didn't fight her, he revealed her. And in that revelation, he did something no man had done before. He gave her the opportunity to grow. This is the legacy of the sovereign man. He does not leave chaos in his wake. He leaves mirrors, and those mirrors reflect truth, raw, sharp, sometimes unbearable, but always real. And the truth is this: a man like that can never be owned, because he already belongs to something far greater. He belongs to purpose, to discipline, to silence, to the deep masculine calling that most have forgotten. He is a guardian of his energy. He does not move unless it's aligned. He does not react unless it's righteous. He does not sacrifice his center just to feel needed, because he knows any woman who requires him to abandon himself is not worthy of the man he has become. It took years for him to build this version of himself. Years of betrayal, years of confusion, nights of solitude that felt like death, shadow work, ego deaths, internal wars. And in the rubble of all that suffering, he stood up, not softer, but stronger, not colder, but clearer. He no longer sees love as something to win. He sees it as something to offer, if, and only if, it meets him in truth. Carl Jung would call this the integration of the self, the final stage of individuation, when a man is no longer split between what he thinks he should be and who he actually is. When he stops living through the eyes of the mother, the woman, the world, and starts living from within. This man cannot be swayed by lust, because he's already known its emptiness. He cannot be seduced by power, because he's already tasted his own. He cannot be manipulated by guilt, because he no longer fears solitude. To women, he is both safe and dangerous. Safe, because his intentions are clean. Dangerous, because he cannot be controlled. And deep down, whether they admit it or not, that is exactly what they've been searching for. Not a man who obeys, not a man who chases, not a man who caves, but a man who remains, still, grounded, unyielding to her chaos, unbothered by her silence, unmoved by her threats. And in that space, in the vacuum of her control, something wild happens. She begins to surrender, not in defeat, but in awe, not because he broke her, but because he didn't need to. He simply became the one thing she couldn't conquer. A man who no longer fears being alone. That's the final truth she must face. That's what makes him unforgettable. Because the man she cannot control is not an act. He is not performing strength. He is strong. Strong enough to walk away. Strong enough to stay calm. Strong enough to love without attachment and detach without hatred. This man, in his silence, becomes a mirror for every man watching. You are not meant to beg. You are not meant to explain. You are not meant to shrink. You are meant to stand, to rise, to become the kind of man who makes a woman question herself, not because you've manipulated her, but because you've mastered you. You are the storm's center, the calm and the fire, the silence and the scream. And once you taste this kind of freedom, the kind that comes when you no longer dance for attention, you will never again chase what you can attract from stillness. She cannot control what she cannot define, and she will never forget the man who didn't need her, because he had already become whole without her.